Hey everybody, Jim here with another video for you. This is the third installment of my Actor Spotlight series, and this time we are focusing on Gene Hackman. But before we begin, at the end of this video, if you like what you see, please consider giving me a thumbs up, a possible subscribe, but most importantly, please leave comments below. Now, Gene Hackman is one of the greatest American actors ever. He has over 100 credits on IMDb, which includes television and voice credits, as well as his theatrical work. He retired about 15, 20 years ago. He is still alive. He's in his 90s, but he had quite the run. From the 70s all the way through the 90s, it seemed like Gene Hackman had at least 2, 3, 4, sometimes even 5 theatrical films in a year. The guy was just a working machine. He's also got 2 Oscars underneath his belt, one for Best Actor for French Connection and one's for Best Supporting Actor for Unforgiven. Now, out of those 100 credits, I've only got 13 titles on Blu-ray. Actually, 12 on Blu-ray, 1 on DVD. I want to get so many others. So there's going to be a lot of glaring omissions from this list. First and foremost, I already mentioned The French Connection. I do not own either of the French Connection movies, but they're both fantastic. The Conversation, Hoosiers, Mississippi Burning, The Replacements, Prime Cut, Night Moves. I mean, so many. The man, like I said, he was one of the most prolific actors of his generation, without a doubt. So again, I've got 13 titles. I'm going to rank them from, in this case, 12 down to 1, because one of them is simply an honorable mention. And if I included it on this list, it would be number 1. But it's not fair because he simply does a cameo in that movie. So we're going to start with that honorable mention. And it's a great role in a great movie. From my Mel Brooks collection, 1974's Young Frankenstein. Starring Gene Wilder, Madeline Kahn, the late great Terry Garr, Peter Boyle, Marty Feldman as Igor, and Gene Hackman playing the blind hermit. It's only one small scene in the movie. It's maybe 5 minutes of screen time in total. But my God, that scene it's a classic. It is an absolute classic. And Gene Hackman is wonderful in that role as the hermit. So this is our honorable mention, Young Frankenstein, which to me is one of the greatest comedies of all time. But I really, in all good conscience, could not really include it on this list. So there we go. All right. Starting from 12, working our way down to 1. And I want to stress, outside of these 12 films, rather, I love at least 10 of them. I really enjoy one of them, and one of them's a piece of shit. And we're going to start that one right away. The piece of shit. And that one is from my Batman Superman box set, Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. Co-starring the late great Christopher Reeve. This movie's an abomination. It really is. The best thing you could say about Superman 3 is at least it's not Superman 4, because without a doubt, the worst Superman movie, it might be the worst superhero movie ever. It's just god-awful. Number 11. This is the only DVD on the list. Bite the Bullet from 1975. Co-starring James Coburn and the beautiful Candice Bergen. This is a Western where it's basically a race across the desert. And it's really entertaining movie. It's got a great supporting cast. Jan Michael Vincent is also in this movie. Ben Johnson. Richard Brooks wrote and directed this film. And again, it's obviously not my favorite Gene Hackman movie, but you could do a lot worse than watching Bite the Bullet. Okay, the rest of these movies I absolutely love, without a doubt. First we have Bat 21, which is a movie a lot of people have never even heard of. Co-starring Danny Glover and Jerry Reed of Smokey and the Bandit fame. This one is directed by Peter Markle, and it is based on a true story of a man in Vietnam who gets shot down behind enemy lines. And Danny Glover is the pilot who keeps flying over him and directing him out of harm's way to try to get him back to safety. Kind of like Behind Enemy Lines a decade before that movie, and Gene Hackman's actually in that movie as well. Bat 21, like I said, it's not a great film by any stretch of the imagination, but it is a very, very good one. And again, it's one of those movies that a lot of people, quite honestly, have not heard of. So if you get a chance, check out Bat 21. It's a very solid movie. Next, we have Get Shorty, co-starring John Travolta, Rene Russo, Danny DeVito. This movie's awesome. It is hilarious. This was kind of a part of a 1-2 comeback for Travolta after Pulp Fiction. And again, this movie's a lot of fun. Gene Hackman gives a pretty understated role for him. He's kind of a slime, but he's very understated. But this movie is Travolta's movie the whole way. It really is. And Danny DeVito is also very funny in this movie. So, Get Shorty. Okay, here we go. Enemy of the State, co-starring Will Smith, in a boatload of great character actors. Jon Voight's in this movie as well. Jack Black is in this movie. Jake Busey, Barry Pepper, Lauren Dean. I mean, Jamie Kennedy. Yeah, there are so many young actors in this movie. Jason Lee. Like I said, directed by Tony Scott. This is a cyber thriller. This is almost like a spiritual cousin to The Conversation, which came out 20 years earlier. And Gene Hackman basically plays the same character that he played in The Conversation. The Conversation is definitely a movie I need to get. It's a great movie. As it is, this movie's awesome. It's one of my favorite Will Smith movies for sure. And obviously, it's one of my favorite Gene Hackman movies. Great, great, great film. Then we have The Quick and the Dead, directed by Sam Raimi. And again, you want to talk about great casts. Sharon Stone, Hackman, Russell Crowe, Leonardo DiCaprio, Keith David, Gary Sinise, Pat Hingle, Lance Henriksen. It just goes on and on and on. I mean, this movie's got a fantastic cast. And again, the people who have seen this movie love it, but a lot of people have never heard of this movie, or it's been forgotten over the years. And again, this is a fantastic, fantastic Western. And then we have Crimson Tide. Again, directed by Tony Scott. And again, killer cast in this one as well. Headlined by Denzel Washington with Gene Hackman, but co-starring Viggo Mortensen, Jason Robards, James Gandolfini, Matt Craven. I mean, yeah, this movie's got George Dzunda. Great, great cast in this movie as well. This is one of the best submarine films ever. And it's not necessarily a war movie. It's like a cross between Hunt for Red October and the Caine Mutiny. But my God, these two are phenomenal together. It's just a great, great film. Okay, we are at the top 5. Number 5 is Uncommon Valor, directed by Ted Kotcheff. And again, another great cast of character actors in this. Along with Hackman, you've got Robert Stack, Fred Ward, Reb Brown, Randall Tex Cobb, Patrick Swayze, very young Patrick Swayze in this movie, Tim Thomerson. This was, as far as I can remember, the first, hey, let's go back to Vietnam and get our POW type movie. And this came out a couple of years before Rambo, before Missing in Action. And this is the best one out of all of them, in my opinion. It's the most grounded in reality. And again, that cast. Every character in this movie is great. And if you've never seen Uncommon Valor, this is the one I would push out of all of these movies that you need to see the most. This movie is fantastic. Number 4 is The Poseidon Adventure. Again, killer cast, co-starring Ernest Borgnine, Red Buttons, Shelley Winters, Jack Albertson, Roddy McDowall, Leslie Nielsen, Pamela Sue Martin. Yeah, this was one of the first disaster movies. This came out right after Airport and right before Towering Inferno and Earthquake. And this movie's been remade. with Kurt Russell. I do not like Poseidon. I love the Poseidon Adventure. This is one of the, if not the greatest disaster movies ever made, in my opinion. It's just, it holds up all these years later. It's just a great movie. And Gene Hackman, I think, gives one of his best performances in this movie. I love the Poseidon Adventure. Number three. From my Batman Superman set, we are going with the original Superman, the movie. Directed by Richard Donner, starring Christopher Reeve, Marlon Brando, and of course Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor. In 1978, when this movie came out, the tagline was, "You will believe a man can fly." And this 11-year-old certainly did. I became enthralled with Superman after seeing this movie theatrically. And Christopher Reeve, rest in peace, he will always, always be the quintessential Superman, in my opinion. Number two, from that same Superman, Batman box set, the follow-up, Superman 2, in this case, the Richard Donner cut, not the theatrical Richard Lester cut. And again, you could flip a coin for these two movies over which one is better, because to me, they're both perfect. They're like Lethal Weapon and Lethal Weapon 2, or to a lesser extent, Godfather and Godfather 2. They complement each other so well. And very rarely do I watch one without watching the second one immediately after. Superman 2, like I said, it's just an incredible, incredible film. It's one of the greatest superhero movies of all time. And number one, from this box set, Clint Eastwood's Unforgiven. Starring Clint Eastwood, Morgan Freeman, Richard Harris, and Gene Hackman in his Academy Award-winning performance for Best Supporting Actor. Unforgiven is quite simply a masterpiece in the Western genre, in any genre. It's just an incredible, incredible film. And rightfully so, Gene Hackman won his Oscar as Little Bill. He is truly terrifying in that movie as the Heavy. He's just a horrible, horrible human being. And Gene Hackman plays him perfectly. What else can I say about this masterpiece? Like I said, it's an incredible, incredible film. It's one of Clint Eastwood's absolute bests. It won Best Picture. Enough said. Number one is Unforgiven. So to recap, number one is Unforgiven. Number two is Superman 2. Number three is Superman the movie. Number four is the Poseidon Adventure. Number five is Uncommon Valor. Number six is Crimson Tide. 7 is The Quick and the Dead. 8 is Enemy of the State. 9 is Get Shorty. 10 is Bat 21. 11 is Bite the Bullet. And finally, Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, which is just a god-awful piece of shit. And, as an honorable mention, Mel Brooks' Young Frankenstein. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, a possible subscribe, but most importantly, please leave comments below. Like I said, there are so many other great Gene Hackman movies that I do not own at this particular time, but I will be getting. In addition to the ones that I mentioned that I don't own, at the beginning of the video. Throw me some of your suggestions. What are some of your favorite Gene Hackman films? So until the next time, I hope everybody's doing great, and we'll catch you on the next one.